I've never been the type to ask for help. Not with the big things, anyway. So I'm not entirely sure why I found myself standing outside apartment 4B on a Friday evening in November, my hand raised to knock, second-guessing every decision that led me here. The thing is, I had a date. An actual date. After months of swiping through apps and having conversations that went nowhere, I'd matched with someone who seemed different. Her name was Emily. She was a photographer. She actually responded to my messages with more than one word. And somehow, impossibly, she'd agreed to meet me tomorrow night at that Italian place downtown. The problem? I had no idea what I was doing. I'd spent the last 3 hours staring at my closet, trying on clothes, changing my mind, trying on other clothes. My best friend was out of town. My sister lived 2 hours away. And somewhere between my third outfit change and a minor panic spiral, I remembered that my neighbor, the woman in 4B, seemed to have her life together in a way I desperately admired. She always looked put together. She seemed confident, capable. I knocked before I could overthink it further. There was a pause. Then footsteps. Then the door opened, and there she was. Her name was Sarah. I'd met her maybe 5 or 6 times over the past year. In the hallway, at the mailbox, once at the building's laundry room where she'd kindly helped me figure out why my washing machine was making that horrible noise. She had warm brown eyes, dark hair usually pulled into a ponytail, and this way of smiling that made you feel like she was genuinely happy to see you, not just being polite. Tonight, she was wearing an oversized sweater and leggings, her hair down around her shoulders. She looked surprised to see me. "Hey," I said, suddenly aware that I might be interrupting something. "Sorry, is this a bad time?" No, she said, stepping back. "I was just making tea. Come in." I hadn't really expected her to invite me inside. I thought I'd stand in the hallway, explain my situation quickly, and leave. But I found myself crossing the threshold into her apartment, which smelled like vanilla candles and something warm. Everything was organized in a way that suggested intention. Plants on the windowsill. Books stacked in neat towers. Photographs on the walls, not prints, but actual framed photography, beautiful shots of landscapes and architecture. "I brought wine," I said, suddenly remembering the bottle I was holding. "But that's fine." "That's good." She laughed. Not at me, but with me, which made all the difference. Wine and tea. Very elegant. Come sit. I sat on her couch while she finished steeping her tea in the kitchen. I could see her moving around, totally at ease in her space, and I felt the anxiety in my chest intensify. Why was I here? What was I doing? When she came back, she settled onto the other end of the couch, tucking her legs beneath her, cradling her mug. She waited for me to speak, which somehow made it easier. "I have a date," I blurted out. "Tomorrow. And I don't know what I'm doing, and I'm panicking, and I thought maybe you could help me figure out what to wear or something." There was a moment of silence. Sarah took a sip of her tea, her eyes meeting mine over the rim of the mug. I watched her carefully, trying to read her expression, and that's when I saw something flicker across her face. Something brief and unguarded before she smiled. "A date," she repeated. "That's exciting. Tell me about her." So I did. I told her about Emily, how we'd matched 3 weeks ago, how our conversations had escalated from surface-level banter to actual depth. How Emily had mentioned she loved trying new restaurants, and when I suggested the Italian place, she'd said yes immediately. How I hadn't been on a real date in over 2 years, and the nerves were eating me alive. Sarah listened. She didn't interrupt or offer unsolicited advice. She just listened, asking questions here and there. "What does Emily do for fun? What made you feel like she was different? What are you most worried about?" That last one made me pause. Honestly, I ran my hand through my hair. I'm worried I'm going to screw it up. I'm worried that in person, I won't be as interesting. That she'll realize I'm just average. That I'll say something stupid or do something awkward, and she'll remember why she's usually swiping left. Sarah was quiet for a moment. She set her mug down on the coffee table and turned to face me more directly. "Can I tell you something?" she asked, and there was something different in her voice. Something careful. "You're not average. I've lived next to you for a year. I've seen you help old Mrs. Chen from 3D carry her groceries up 4 flights of stairs. I've seen you shovel snow for the entire hallway just because you were already doing yours. I've heard you laugh, really laugh, at terrible jokes. I felt my chest tighten. There was something in the way she was looking at me that made my breath catch. Emily would be lucky, Sarah continued, and her voice was steady but quieter now. But also, I need to tell you something, and I don't want to make this weird, but I also can't keep pretending I don't feel it. I didn't move. I didn't breathe. I like you, she said simply. I've liked you for a while. And it's fine. It's totally fine that you have a date tomorrow. You should go. You should be happy. But I couldn't let that happen without telling you. The silence that followed felt enormous. My mind was racing. In the space of 5 minutes, my evening had shifted into something completely unexpected. I thought about how Sarah had always been kind to me. How she was the type of person who showed up for people. How I'd never let myself notice the way she looked at me, because I'd convinced myself she was just being friendly. Sarah, I started, and then stopped, because I didn't know what came next. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, she said quickly, and I could see the slight tremor in her hands as she picked her mug back up. I'm not trying to manipulate you or guilt you into anything. Tomorrow, you're going to go on your date with Emily. You're going to have a great time. And if it doesn't work out with her, maybe then we could figure this out. But I'm not asking you to throw away an opportunity for something that might not even go anywhere. There was something so painfully mature about what she was saying. So generous. And that's when I realized something that made my chest ache. I'd been drawn to Sarah's apartment because I trusted her judgment. Because something in me had known, on some level, that she would understand. That she would help. And maybe that was more than just neighbor kindness. I need to think, I said quietly. I need to. I don't know. Process this. I know, she said, and she smiled. That same warm smile I'd seen a dozen times before, but now it meant something different. Go on your date. Be present with Emily. Make whatever decision feels right. I left her apartment that night without resolving what I was supposed to wear. I left without the confidence boost I'd come for. But I left with something else entirely, the knowledge that someone I cared about me. That it was possible to feel genuinely confused and genuinely alive at the same time. The date with Emily was nice. She was smart and funny and beautiful, exactly like she'd seemed online. But halfway through dinner, I realized I was thinking about Sarah. About the way she'd been brave enough to tell me the truth. About the generosity in her honesty. I finished the date, drove home, and sat in my apartment for an hour before I walked back out into the hallway. I knocked on 4B again. When Sarah opened the door, her eyes widened slightly. She was in pajamas now, hair braided for sleep. "How was your date?" she asked, even though I could see the hope and the fear warring in her expression. "It was good," I said. "She was great." But the whole time, I kept thinking about something. She waited. I kept thinking about how I came to you because I needed help, and you gave me something better. You gave me honesty. You gave me vulnerability. And I realized that's what I'm actually looking for, Sarah. That's what matters. I watched her face transform. The way hope won out over caution. "So what are you saying?" she asked softly. "I'm saying," I took a breath, "that I want to figure this out. You and me. No pressure, no timeline. Just starting here. Starting now." She smiled then, really smiled, and stepped aside. "Come in," she said. "Let's make tea." And this time, I wasn't panicking. This time, I knew exactly where I was supposed to be. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more heartfelt tales, and drop a comment letting us know where you're listening from. We'd love to hear your thoughts and connect with you. Thanks for being part of the Unscripted Stories community.